that are on public hearing today and showing the board maps, photos, and site plans for each of the subject properties. We've got some preliminary announcements to submit to the board at this time. We have one case that's being deferred one meeting. That's going to be case 2023-125. It's a request by Christopher Rowe for property located at 753 Newberry Road to reduce the street setback from 79 to 52 feet for a single-family home. Is there anyone here who is hoping to speak on that case? All right, just want to make sure everyone knows that that's being deferred 2 weeks. It'll be back here, same location, same time, November 16th. We also have a consent agenda that we would like to ask the board to consider. For the items that are going to be recommended for the consent agenda, the board staff has gone over these cases with the board's chair. And we would like to note if any of the board members prefer to hear any of these cases, please let us know. And we'll be happy to pull that case off of consent and hear it in its regular order on the agenda. In addition, after each case that I call that's proposed for consent today, if there's anyone here in the audience who is wishing to speak against one of these cases, just let us know when we call the case up. And again, we'll go ahead and hear it on public hearing if that is the case. The first case that we would like to recommend for consent today is 2023-92. That's a request by John Root for property located at 1322 Little Hamilton Avenue, requesting to reduce the street and side street setbacks in the CS zone to construct 2 commercial buildings. Was there anybody here wishing to speak in opposition to that request? Okay, I don't see anyone. Next, we have case 2023-123. This is a request for property located at 2216 14th Avenue North, requesting a variance in the street setback requirement, the side street setback requirement, to construct a single-family home. That was requesting an 8-foot street setback. And is there anybody here who is hoping to speak in opposition to that request? I don't see anyone. We'd like to recommend case 2023-126. This was a request for property located at 127 Kingston Street to reduce the street setback requirements in the RS5 zoning district to construct a single-family home. Anybody wishing to speak against that request? Case 2023-129 is a request filed for property located at 131 Kingston Street, requesting a street setback variance for property in the RS10 zoning district to construct a single-family home. Was anybody wanting to speak against that? Finally, there's case 2023-140. This is a request for property located at 3805 Dr. Walter S. Davis Boulevard, seeking to obtain a variance in the driveway separation distance for property located at 3805 Dr. Walter S. Davis. Was anybody wanting to speak against that request? I don't see anyone, so at this time would ask the board if there's no objection, someone would make a motion to approve these cases.
Okay, motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor? Aye, that passes.
Okay. I don't believe we have any council members present today. For the cases that are going to be on public hearing this afternoon, we'd like to point out that if your case is uncontested, you'll have 5 minutes as the applicant to make your presentation to the board. I'm not sure if any of the cases are contested today. We've only got a few remaining on the agenda, but if there are any cases that are contested, each side will have 10 minutes, and we'll be happy to elaborate on that as each of those cases is called up. Please note that each case requires 4 votes to grant an application. Once a vote is taken on your application, any party who disagrees with the outcome may request a hearing within 60 days. Parties may also appeal the decision of the Davidson County Chancery Court by filing a writ of certiorari within 60 days. All parties are encouraged to seek independent legal counsel before filing an appeal to make sure that all deadlines and procedures are followed. So I didn't see a big exodus, so I figured that I would go back and clarify that all the cases that have been approved on consent, so those are the cases at 1322 Little Hamilton, 2216 14th Avenue North, 127 and 131 Kingston, and 3805 Walter Davis. Those cases have all been approved at this time, so you are welcome to leave, or you could stay if you wish, but we will be sending you a copy of the order from today's proceedings, so at this time your case is concluded. All right, so thank you. We've got all right, one more preliminary matter before we get started with our cases on public hearing. There was a case that was on public hearing last meeting on October 19th. This was a request by the Sitzlers for property located at 135 46th Avenue North, requesting a reduction from the street setback from 40 feet to 20 in the R6 zoning district. And at that time, there was a motion to approve the request. The motion that's pending before the board tied on votes. There were 3 votes in favor, 3 votes against. I'd be happy to go over those votes. And at this time, would also ask Mr. Pepper if you haven't had an opportunity to review the record and look at the public hearing from this case.
I did, and I vote in favor of the motion.
Okay, vote in favor of the motion. So that's 4 in favor, 1 against. And assuming no one else wishes to change their vote at this time, then we'll show that that case has been approved. Yeah. 4 in favor. Yeah. Thanks, y'all. Okay. Yes, and just a quick last note. So we're going to, at this time, get started on the cases that are on public hearing. So whenever you come forward, we'll call the applicants first. You'll come up and there's a little icon at the base of the microphone that looks kind of like a person. If you'll push that button, the red microphone should light up for you. Just make sure to only push it one time because our technology can be a little bit sketchy if you start pushing it a bunch. But yeah, push it one time, the red light will come on. Then go ahead and state your name and your address, and then you'll be able to get started. All right, the first case on today's agenda for public hearing is case 2023-116. This is a request to reduce the street setback and the rear setback to 10 feet each to construct 2 single-family homes. NDOT has recommended disapproval, and board members, this case was on public hearing at the last meeting, after which there was a motion to defer, which was approved. I'm going to go through the slides again, and then we'll, is there anybody here wishing to speak against this request? Okay, so you all have 5 minutes once we get started, and I'll go through our slides really quickly to refresh everybody's memory on what this case is asking. So this was the zoning map, and the zoning for this property is R6. And then you may recall this, the street is a loop that sits on top of a hill in West Nashville, just a block off of Charlotte Avenue. And this is the lot, so it's currently vacant. There's another view of it, and so it does sit at the end of the loop. This is a slope map, so this helps exhibit what the hill looks like, and then the contour map as well. We have some views from the property. So up top you can see looking north and then looking east at the bottom toward downtown. There's another picture of the views of the nations, and then at the bottom you can see from the bottom of the hill looking up. This was a site plan that's been submitted for the house that would be nearest to the curve. And we have some more detail on this proposal, and you can see where the setbacks, the proposed setbacks, line up with the structure. And then here we have a draft site plan that's been submitted in advance of today's meeting. At this time, you may go ahead and begin your presentation.
Thank you. Josh Lee with the Thompson Burton Law Firm at 1801 West End Avenue. Thank you, board members, for hearing the case one more time. Just as a brief recap, as Ms. Waits has said, our primary hardship requesting this variance is the irregular lot shape. I believe that was not really disputed at our last discussion. It is very clearly an irregular lot shape, almost a triangular shape there at the end of that curve, that loop. Again, this is a residential circle off of Charlotte, and so there's no through traffic through this area. And one brief note about the setback request, it is as minimal as our client could make this here. We do note there's a significant portion to the east into the circle that is not being built into. Instead, it's being pushed towards the street on each side, which is the reason for the variance request. After our meeting last 2 weeks ago, we listened to all of the concerns and all of the comments and feedback. Thank you, board members, for those. So we've done a couple of things in response. One, we've heard feedback that you'd like to see the footprint of the other building. It is a HBR property, and so we've included that here so you can see within the setback. It's not going to result in an additional request. Also, in our memo, we've included an additional photo from the curve so you can see exactly where the driveway will sit with a vehicle in that spot. I'd also at this time like to present a few videos that were also sent to the board, but for the purpose of the record, I'd like to present those.
Are those the videos that are already in the record?
They are,
short
yes, sir.
clips of John Michael's Subaru going around the. I mean, I'm glad for you to play them again, but I think we've probably all received them and watched them, and they're in the record, Mr.
Very
Lee.
good. Good.
Yeah, that's the white Subaru. That's the four. There are four of them. Yeah. Okay. And they're in the record. So
very good.
Yeah.
So just for the purpose of illustration, those videos show.
You can still play them. I'm not trying to discourage you. It sounded like you thought they might not be in the record. I wanted to make that clear. So.
Very good. I'll show them just briefly so
sure.
we can explain. As you noted, it is Mr. Michael's Subaru traveling around the curve. In each video, he's traveling at approximately 15 miles an hour, just to show the sharpness of the curve and also the distance from the apex to the driveway that is proposed for this lot.
Now, I have one question before you show the video. I watched them earlier, but I couldn't tell. Is there anything that you placed on that triangular lot to denote kind of the proposed front part of this house, just to give an idea of where that's going to be?
So we didn't place anything there, but I believe you'll be able to see approximately where it is. And there's at one point, I believe, one of us that's standing pretty close to where that will be.
Okay.
Michael Giles, 1000 Warren Street. There's a pole sticking up. You can barely see it next to that flag right there. We've actually marked where the end of the house would be. So that'll be the end of the patio, actually, that you see in the site plan. Not the actual house, but even the patio. So.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we are approaching at exactly 15 miles an hour, 16:15. Holding steady at 15. East 15, 15, all the way around, and here's the driveway for the first house.
This is coming from the opposite direction.
We are now at 10, 12, 15 miles per hour now, 15. Staying at 15, a little easier on this direction. Got up to 15, 15, a little 16, 15.
This is a view standing out as you can watch the vehicles go around that curve. Mr. Kyle, Giles, is that the pole right there?
What does that represent again, roughly?
That's the depth of the patio on the site plan. There's a crescent-shaped patio there.
That's kind of the tip of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Additionally, I believe there was a note about perhaps viewing the 3D renderings of the property, and so we've also included these printouts, if I can distribute those.
Did you all follow up with NDOT to get any insight on why they recommended no?
We have not spoken directly to NDOT other than to get that. I believe their phrasing was a lack of support for the variance. We did note that, again, we're not building out into that triangular area that you can see that would be available for building, which I believe is clear from the video, from the photos, that would have a bigger impact on the visibility around that curve than the slight imposition into the side and into the back and front setback.
It's unfortunate. That was one of my hangups was the lack of any support. I'm not a traffic engineer. I asked in previous, when it was in front of us a couple weeks ago, asking about additional information. So, and then one thing that kind of came to mind too is fencing. Putting a 4-foot fence around this thing also is going to impede seeing people when they're walking. I know some other things like that too. So, anyway.
On the topic of fence, the point of us building in this spot is for the view that's at the end, so there's not going to be a fence there. We want to be able to see the city.
Yeah, I have no. I understand why you're building there. The one problem is I have no idea what to judge on anything related to traffic patterns, pedestrian traffic, what kind of fencing restrictions we should put on site patterns, any of those things. Those are all outside of my knowledge and control. That's why I asked if there had been a traffic study done or anything else other than NDOT simply saying we don't support this.
And just to briefly respond to that as well, our position is the photos, the videos, they provide enough support for a layperson to see that at a speed that's reasonable to go around that curve, the distance between the driveway that's proposed and that apex of the curve doesn't pose a danger. Additionally, the board does have the ability to put conditions on approval. Our client is ready to consider those conditions in real time. We have discussed the possibility of funding a stop sign or some sharp curve sign that could go around and would impact that, speed plus distance calculation there to address any visibility concerns.
Right, and I understand the videos were helpful, but a layperson's not going to be able to understand the implications. Not everybody's going to go around 15 degrees. So there's going to be a structure there, potentially a fence, probably landscaping, a whole host of other things. So I don't have any other comments.
Just speak to us. I watched the video from the last one, but you're putting the plan is to put 2 units here. What could you put without the variance? Because there was some discussion last time about you could put something without a variance, and what I understood was you're going to maybe have even more visibility issues if you do that, or are you going to be scooting it? You're going to have to scoot it in or back. Can you talk to us about that? Because
the current plan doesn't have an alternative without the variance, and so it would be redone. The expectation would be if the home was built here without a variance, it is more likely to be further into that circle, further into that curve, which is allowed through the current setbacks. Our position is that would be much worse, although you can do it by right, and there's been no requirements by NDOT for any kind of further setback in that area. That would be much worse worse for visibility in that area than the minimal intrusion that our client is requesting here. And of course, the client would be required to follow any NDOT regulations, any stormwater regulations, or anything else through the building permit process.
Which is really kind of paradoxical, I guess, that if you build it according to code, it's going to be a bigger problem for NDOT in terms of visibility. I mean, I understand that. That's okay. Thank you. And NDOT's just offered no assistance here other than saying we just don't want you to do it. I mean,
The only correspondence I have is an email from them saying they do not support this variance.
okay. Do they understand that if you don't seek a variance and build according to how you're lawfully allowed to build, that you could potentially extend significantly further into the apex?
I'm not sure about that.
I just wonder if that might make them rethink things, because this seems kind of upside down.
Well, they don't support this. They certainly wouldn't support that, right?
Well, but they don't have to support that. I don't think.
No, I understand.
That's why I say it's the dilemma here is it's just a situation where NDOT's saying no, but what they can do could be
Mr. Chair,
could affect visibility.
could we punt this back to our friends at NDOT?
I think I would be, yeah. I mean,
I'd feel a whole lot better if they gave some input instead of us guessing or making a decision on information not in the record or anything like that.
well, that's
probably
an
would be-
alternative, and I think that we should explore that. I guess their position is we're giving you information right now, and I think what concerns me is that we might do something. If we were to say we're going to deny this variance because of NDOT, then NDOT's going to end up with something that's more problematic in terms of a traffic design. And so I don't know, is it your expectation that NDOT might make suggestions or
Or at least
things that would-
explain why they're saying no. I'm one of those that I don't want to assume anything that may damage someone that would have the right, or if they go and do what they're legally entitled to do, may be worse. But yet if I still have problems with it, but if NDOT didn't have any problems, or at least told them what they had to do, they could rectify it. This way here, we don't have
I mean, this
that.
could be perfectly fine, but there's not just the building, it's all the other parts and pieces that go along with it. So, NDOT may, if they can do something by right, may have to come back and put some type of yield signs or stop signs or other types of things to react to what was being built there. But just getting some information, I am, layperson or not, I'm not going to be able to determine road safeties. It's not my background, it's not our role to determine that. So, and that's my main concern here, and I'm just getting some additional inputs, whether it's through a traffic engineer or something else beyond just a video. It's just hard to tell. So, I mean, that's kind of my hang up, and it sounds like it's his as well, but.
You go ahead and say it. I was the same as mine.
Yeah. So I think you're hearing, I mean, I understand how reasonable minds could differ about this. You've satisfied me that I think it's not an arterial street. I mean, I see there are a lot of undesirable street setups in Nashville, but I think you're not going to get 4 votes. I think that there are people that reasonably want to see other information, and I think you mentioned a traffic study,
Yeah.
but you might want to.
I mentioned that a couple of weeks ago. I don't necessarily want to require it or anything, but I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago to having some additional information, whether it's from NDOT or a traffic engineer or somebody that says this is okay or these are the parameters around it or something along those lines. Because if you put a house there, someone puts a fence there and landscapes it, you've got a blind corner, people whip around that corner, someone's walking their kids. It just presents more of a hazard. And that's my biggest concern. So I can't speak for everybody else. The only information I have is just that NDOT doesn't support it. If the NDOT said they support it, then I probably wouldn't be sitting here.
And we can put conditions on it, like any fencing, be restricted in height or be visible see-through fencing, whatever the correct code term is. And we could even, or prohibit any kind of landscaping. But I understand I think it's very practical for us to want to hear from NDOT about what is their opinion
Right.
about what could be done here and what is the issue. I mean, I've assumed the issue is that it's the turn and the visibility issue, but maybe they have another issue with it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't want to keep putting them off, but I also don't want to guess what may or may not. That doesn't help anybody. And I enjoy seeing you guys up here all the time, but I'm sure there are better things. You'd rather be building.
Sure.
You'd rather be off working on another file. And I cannot get in the mind of NDOT. I'm not even going to try. I still have some sanity left. So
I think it would be helpful also if for NDOT maybe to weigh in on if they have concerns, what measures they could implement, whether it's a sign, as I think you suggested.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a book of 1,000 different parameters and procedures for curves and speeds and all the other parts and pieces. So I'm sure there's something they could weigh in, some type of feedback. I mean, I've never dealt with it not that much, so I don't know how cumbersome or slow they are.
Sure.
I imagine they're not speeding.
If the board were to request their presence here in 2 weeks, we could try to work with them in the interim. The response to the traffic study, while that is definitely something that happens in a more active area, the concern is the amount of time that would take to arrange that and to get the valuable information that would provide. So perhaps having the board requesting NDOT's presence in 2 weeks and us working with them in the interim might be the best way.
I don't think we have the power to do that. I think.
Look, request versus
maybe we have some powers we didn't realize
We actually have subpoena power, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
would you mind?
I've only done it one time in 22 years, but we can compel them to be here. My friend to my left.
In their email, they offered to provide more information if you all asked.
I hate to be a stickler about it. My biggest thing is, getting higher density, more families, there's no sidewalks. This is a safety issue. This isn't a shadow line issue or a site issue. This is a real life safety issue. And I just want some professional opinions from professional people on it, other than me looking at a video saying, oh, that looks about right. I have no idea.
I understand that the traffic study. To me, this isn't a traditional traffic study, though. But it seems to me like an engineer that does traffic studies and has those kind of qualifications about sight lines and speeds and radiuses might not have to do it. The kind of study where they go out and put the cords in the street, and you have to take a sample for at least a certain period of time. I think if we could hear from an engineer, even if it's not NDOT, that would probably go a long way towards informing us in a way that we'd feel more comfortable.
And Ms. Waits just said that NDOT did offer to provide more information. I'm just thinking about expense and cost and everything else. So if NDOT at least provided, to your point, why this didn't work for them and offer what would work for them, that may save costs and then move us along.
And also potentially understanding if they don't weigh in, it could be by right something even worse. And I mean, from what I've seen, I don't particularly have a problem with it, but to get me personally over the hump, I need some more professional weigh-in on that. So.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to push you towards a private engineer.
I didn't take it that way.
I think you should go to NDOT first. I'm just saying that they haven't been effusive with information so far. So if you run into that block and I know interest rates are probably continuing to go up, and that's costing a lot of people that are sitting around waiting money. There is the option, and I think we'd be open to hearing from an engineer. I'd rather hear from NDOT myself first. Y'all can weigh in on that.
I agree. I would too.
I would too, and I think the time to find a traffic engineer and then get on the schedule and then for them to do the report, you're probably talking months. So which is not ideal either.
Could we invite, if you deferred it one more meeting with a request from our wonderful folks across the way to have some folks from NDOT here to help us, it would really make a service to the community.
It wasn't for lack of trying on our part. I mean, we did go to them, and it would kind of be helpful maybe if y'all had a standard for what you expect from them, because what they gave us, I mean, it was the board that asked for NDOT to, actually review the case. So we've reached out to them, and we did go back to them. They just said that they didn't have any additional comments. So that was what John Michael told me.
I would imagine they have some standards for when a curve reaches a certain radius at a certain speed,
I would think
that this is the sight line you need to have.
Sure.
I couldn't even tell you what it is, but I'm sure it's somewhere in some
Sure.
NDOT book or something along those lines. I would imagine they have to design these streets, and you have a certain radius, you have a certain
And we
speed.
don't have any of our architects here at this time, so.
So would a 2-week deferral be, Mr. Lee, okay, they're talking about the deferral, so
Don't you think?
I think that's where it's definitely going, so I think we just need to figure out what kind of deferral they would like and what seems, in terms of deferral, 2 weeks, 4 weeks?
As you mentioned, Mr. Chair, the interest rates are a significant issue, and there are alternative plans that do build into that circle. So the client will have to review pretty closely whether it decides to withdraw the variance request. But we'll certainly try to get as much feedback as we can before then. Any support that the board gives in the meantime will, I think that will help get additional feedback. If the feedback allows us to feel confident coming back, that will be what we try to do. But, time is not our friend on this.
Yeah, no, I get that. So, I mean, you can withdraw the request, obviously, anytime, but is a 2-week deferral enough?
We'll do everything we can do in the 2 weeks. It's outside of our control.
We're going to be here in 2 weeks. We're going to be here in 4 weeks. So I don't think it's up, if you want 4 weeks, we can give you 4 weeks.
Joey,
PennDOT will come. We'll ask them. They'll show up.
Okay,
In
so how about
2 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the
Okay.
Fed chairman did not raise rates, so you at least got until the December meeting.
This time.
This time.
So I'll make a motion that we defer this case 2 weeks. Motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, that passes. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Joe, you will take care of inviting our friends pretty please.
All right, case 2023-118. This is a request for property located at 2409 Eden Street to reduce the street setback to 26.5 feet in the RS5 district in order to construct a covered front porch. This is the zoning map, an aerial view of this neighborhood. This is the home on the property. Another view, so you could see sort of what it looks like from the street line. It's got a retaining wall. And then this is views of the street on either side. I will say that the contextual setback on this street is extremely consistent. So the houses are all sitting around 34 feet from the right-of-way. And then here is the site plan. Was anybody wanting to speak against this request today? All right. If you'd like to go ahead and turn on your mic and state your name and address, you'll have 5 minutes to make your presentation.
Hello, thank you for seeing us today. I am just here on behalf of the homeowner.
Can you state your name, please, sir?
My name is Brad Taylor.
All right.
And I work for Prestige Remodeling Solutions.
And can you give us an address, Mr. Taylor, for the record?
My physical address
Either one's fine.
is 4708 Bass Road in Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
Thank you.
I am basically here on behalf of the client. She's not able to attend today, so I'm here. I don't have any real presentation for you guys. It's pretty simple. She's wanting a roof covering over her existing porch and concrete pad that is there currently. So I am just trying to get this through for her.
This is an unenclosed porch, correct?
Yes, sir, correct.
No screen siding or no?
That is correct, yes, sir.
I think that's really the only question I had. And it doesn't look like there's been any objection from neighbors that I saw in the file. Are you aware of any?
Not that we're aware of. I believe we sent out 230 some odd letters with no responses.
Is this a one-story? It's one-story house. Is that
yes,
correct?
Sir.
Okay. Well, those are the questions I have. So some other members may have questions for you. I think they do.
I've got a question. You said it's over the existing concrete pad that's there right now?
Yes, sir. So not shown. You have a small little stoop going right into the door, but out beside that is a concrete pad that has always been there. And so we're just looking to drag that roof line out just a little bit to cover most of that.
Do we have a size? I've been trying to find that.
It's approximately sizing on the roof structure will be 17 foot wide, 8 to 9 feet out from the house currently.
Now, yeah.
Elizabeth, could you show the picture again of the dwelling? Thank you.
17 feet wide.
So essentially the big bay window that is there on the left side, my roof systems should extend close to the edge of that window to just before the right side window. Thank you.
Okay, we'll deliberate. Typically, I don't think, we've distinguished between enclosed structures and unenclosed structures, but I looked to see if there was any obstructions in the back, like an easement or something that would create some kind of hardship, I guess. My concern is I'm just not seeing the hardship. I know in the past if it's, unenclosed, we've kind of treated that as not really a obstruction in the setback. But I would like somebody, if we're going to grant this, to identify some kind of hardship here or exceptional circumstances.
I think you summed up how I thought about it. And I mean, one thing that wasn't clear to me in the packet, but was clear with the presentation, was how uniform the line is. And so, all that, and so they're all uniform. And now this isn't, especially with a covered porch, it's not going to feel the same looking at it from the streetscape. So I was, like you said, we normally carve out stuff, and I'm not saying that this isn't a case where we could, but with what we've been presented, I didn't see a hardship. And then if we're going to grant this and mess with that streetscape, we should at least have a good reason.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Well, is that a motion? Or
well, it sounds like somebody was going to.
Mr. Ransom is going to weigh in, I think.
Yeah, there's one house that's, I'm obviously big on covered porches, but there is one house that's 5 doors down, I think, that sticks out. I can't tell, looks like 2419 Eden Street. I wish they would have presented some information on that, because it looks like it's a good probably 15 feet in front of the rest of the streetscape. The streetscape, as Elizabeth commented, is pretty consistent with the exception of this one house. It looks like developers built a 2-story front porch on that, so that's the only house that you can kind of see the tail of it, which is that white one way to the left. You see the back side of it, but on the front side, it sticks out a good 15 or so feet from the rest. And the developer reused the old foundation, I think, in order to stick with that. So that's the only one that sticks out. Everything else is pretty consistent. So, I mean, there's no hardship I agree with you. They haven't really asked for a hardship, and that 2419 wasn't brought up. I mean, if it wasn't such a large size, I think it's just oversized. If you're asking for something that's not on a hardship for a variety of reasons, I think it should be more scaled to the house that's there, or keep in mind with what's going on. So, I mean, I personally would be in support of a more scaled front porch, but I think this one's a bit of a overreach in size. It's not consistent with the other homes, with the exception of that one. 5 or 6 doors down to the right. So.
I'm going to make a motion we deny.
Okay. There's a motion we deny. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion to deny and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed. Okay. That motion does not, that application is denied. All right, our last case.
This is case 2023-127. It's a request by Christopher Lacey to increase the maximum square footage for a rear accessory structure for property located at 3852 Saunders Avenue, zoned RS15. Here's a zoning map and the aerial view of the neighborhood. I've got several photos here for you of the existing conditions. So below is the house, and that's the front fence. And then at the top left, you can see the entrance, the rear fence and the entrance to the backyard. And then this is a photo from the neighbor's house. So you could see the side of the rear fence and what the backyard looks like from the neighboring property. This is inside the backyard. And there's a tree there to the left, whereas the garage is being proposed toward the right side of the rear. And then this is a view from the rear of the backyard back toward the rear of the house. And then here is the proposed site plan. Was there anybody wishing to speak against this request? There's not. So if you could please go ahead and turn on your mic, tell us your name and address, and you can get started. You have 5 minutes to make your presentation.
Hello, I am Malin Stoltz, and I'm on here in behalf of Christopher Lacey. He's not able to attend today. Address is 2837 Will Teasley. Sorry.
Okay, you're stating your address. Okay,
Yes.
that's what I asked.
Yeah, 2837 Will Teasley Road, Cedar Hill, Tennessee. We are requesting to build a 1,200 square foot garage, and we've had the survey done, so we are within the setbacks.
Hey, I'm sorry. Can you tell me the square footage of the house?
That I don't know if I have.
Okay, it's okay. You can go ahead. I'm sorry. I was just
You're
curious.
good.
And I should be able to pull that up from the property assessor while y'all are.
Okay. For Christopher Lacey, he would like a bigger garage. To be able to build anything of a substantial size for him, like an attached garage, there's no space to be able to do that. On the side, there would not be any access to get back there if we did that on the side of the house. And it's a smaller home, so there's no attic space or anything for him to put his vehicles in, so there's no coverage or anything like that. So this is what he is proposing for the garage. The lot is narrow. I think that's the biggest issue for him. And so that is why he needs this garage structure. The neighbor also has a larger structure. I've got an address here. It's just across the street. And it's definitely over 1,200 square feet on 3855. The neighbor's got a shop in the back of his property as well. And we also have all the adjoining neighbors. We've got the signatures from them stating their approval for the structure. It does not obstruct anybody's views. As you saw, there's a tall fence, so it'll be mostly hidden from, it's not a tall structure. It's just a single story. And the sole purpose is for storage. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Elizabeth, could you put the picture of the backyard up again, please?
Yes, I'd be happy to do that. I apologize.
Thank you.
And I might need to ask Joey's advice on how to get this property assessor. How would I? All right, thank you, Mr. Hargis. Let's see here. This is the information from the property assessor. So according to the property assessor's website, it's going to be 1,318 square feet. Okay. And I'm sorry, Mr. Lawless, would you please tell me what it was that you were wanting to see again?
Sorry, the picture of the back,
Okay.
I guess the proposed building area.
There we are.
Okay, any further questions for the applicant? Okay, we will close the public hearing and discuss. Thank you.
Oh, no, ladies always first.
So we've had some similar cases like this in the past. I'm remembering one on Delmas a few years ago where it was sort of similar. Delmas is in East Nashville, this is in Inglewood, but it's not far, and it was a smaller house, and they didn't have enough storage, and they wanted to build like a really big garage for just storage, and we denied it because we said it wasn't a hardship. And on this one, I was struggling with it because I understand, I think a detached garage would be appropriate here, especially in the back. I think my concern is just the size of it and whether or not this is a self-imposed hardship. I don't think there's anything connected to the land that prompted this request. I think this is what the homeowner wants, and because this is what they want, they're asking for a variance. And I didn't make a connection between the ask and a hardship. So.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see a hardship either. I understand they want a bigger, more 500 more square feet, but for us the zoning code doesn't allow that unless they prove there's some kind of hardship, and I don't see one. And we have had some of these over the years where, and I can't remember one we've granted where the hardship has just been somebody wants more space. I mean, whether we agree with that or not, it's just not, in my view, it's until a hardship is shown, we can't assist. So,
And the rough numbers they'd still be able to get based on what they're allowed to get is a 25 by 28 garage, which is still
a good size.
700 square feet.
I mean, that's what a two-car garage is roughly in most homes. So yeah, I'm in agreement.
And I don't need to voice my concern over two very, very mature trees in the back that are going to get affected no matter how you do it if you build a building of that size. Again,
Well,
I don't see anything but a self-imposed issue on this one.
Then based on that, I'll make a motion that we deny the request because a hardship was not demonstrated to justify the hardship.
Second.
okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Being none, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. So that 4-0, that does not pass. I believe that is am I correct? That's our last
Motion to
case, right?
adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, second, all in favor, aye. Okay,
Aye.
we're adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.